That's just a statement, though. That's not the actual.
Hello. Ben, you interrupted.
What are we starting?
Hello. Yeah, we're starting. Hello, everyone. Sorry about that. I'm here with Ben McLean and Blackjack, and we're going to go over the controversial memo that was released today about alleged FBI involvement in misconduct over the 2016 election. Here we have, I think it's a little treat, though. I'm going to show you the Washington Post's disclaimers beforehand. Hold on. Hold on. Anyways, yeah. Let me share my screen. Release of disputed GOP memo on FBI surveillance unleashes waves of recrimination. A GOP memo declassified on Friday charges senior law enforcement officials with manipulating a foreign intelligence court in order to surveil a former Trump campaign advisor, contested accusations that intensified an ongoing battle between the White House and Republican lawmakers on one side, and the FBI and the Justice Department and the Democrats on the other. Democrats warned Trump not to try and use the memo's contents as a justification for firing Attorney General Rob Rosenstein or other officials overseeing an ongoing probe into possible coordination between Russian Trump associates and agents of the Russian government during this 2016. Asked after the memo was released if he might fire Rosenstein, Trump told reporters, "You figured that one out." Oh boy. Anyways, we're gonna go over the text of this. I know I have the lefty Politico annotated version, but let's just go over it. It's not very long. So,
hey guys, I got a link to the unmolested PDF that I'm gonna paste in the chat.
Oh, awesome! Then we can use that instead.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter which version you use. The text is the same either way.
Mm-hmm. I just posted in the group chat.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I wanted to get a version that this is the Washington Post version, apparently, but at least it doesn't have. I want to get what is in the memo before we get anything about what's from.
All right. I'm going to start reading it then. All right. Here's a screen share. All right. The Honorable, February 2nd, 2018, the Honorable Devin Nunes, Chairman, House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, U.S. Capitol, Washington, D.C., 20515. Dear Mr. Chairman, on January 29th, 2018, the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, hereinafter, the committee voted to disclose publicly a memorandum containing classified information provided to the committee in connection with its oversight activities. The memorandum, which is attached to this letter, as provided by Clause 11G of Rule X of the House of Representatives, the committee has forwarded this memorandum to the President based on its determination that the release of the memorandum would serve the public interest. And it's just sort of jargon about the rights the President has to do this stuff. The committee has now determined the release of the memorandum would be appropriate. The executive branch across administrations of both parties has worked to accommodate congressional requests to declassify specific materials in the public interest. However, public release of classified information by unilateral action of the legislative branch is extremely rare and raises the significant separation of powers concerned. Accordingly, the committee's request to release the memorandum is interpreted as a request for declassification pursuant to the President's authority. The President understands the protection of our national security represents his highest obligation. Currently, he has directed lawyers and national security staff to assess the declassification requests. The White House review also included input from the Director of National Intelligence. Based on this assessment, and in light of the significant public interest in the memorandum, including the President's son, the President has authorized the declassification of the memorandum. To be clear, the memorandum reflects the judgments of its congressional authors. The President understands that oversight concerning matters related to the memorandum may be continuing, though the circumstances leading to the declassification through this process are extraordinary. The executive branch stands ready to work with Congress to accommodate oversight requests consistent with applicable standards and processes, including the need to protect intelligence sources and methods. The Honorable Speaker Paul Ryan and the Honorable Adam. Well, that's questionable. Adam Schiff, ranking member.
That was sent by White House counsel, not Paul Ryan. It was CC'd.
All right. Now here's the actual good stuff. This memorandum proposes and members This memorandum provides members an update on significant facts relating to the committee's ongoing investigation into the Department of Justice and Federal Bureau of Investigation and their use of Foreign Intelligence Service Act (FISA) during the 2016 presidential election cycle. Our findings, which are detailed below, number one, raise concerns with the legitimacy and legality of certain DOJ and FBI interactions with the FISA court, and two, represent a troubling breakdown of legal processes established to protect the American people from abuses related to the FISA process. Investigation update. On October 21st, 2016, Department of Justice and FBI saw and received a FISA probable cause order not under Title 7, authorizing electronic surveillance on Carter Page from the FISC. Page is a U.S. citizen who served as a volunteer advisor to the Trump presidential campaign. Consistent with requirements under FISA, the application had to be first certified by the director or deputy director of the FBI. It then required the approval of the Attorney General, Deputy Attorney General, or the Senate-confirmed Assistant Attorney General for the National Security Division. The FBI and Department of Justice obtained one initial FISA warrant targeting Carter Page and 3 FISA renewals from the FISC. As required by Statute 50 U.S.C. 1805 D1, a FISA order on an American citizen must be renewed by the FISC every 90 days, and each renewal requires a separate finding of probable cause. Then Director James Comey signed 3 FISA applications in questions on behalf of the FBI, and Deputy Director Andrew McCabe signed 1. The then DAG Sally Yates, then acting DAG Dana Bonte, and DAG Rod Rosenstein each signed 1 or more FISA applications on behalf of the Department of Justice. Due to the sensitive nature of foreign intelligence activity, FISA submissions, including renewals, before the FISC are classified. As such, the public's confidence in the integrity of FISA process depends on the court's ability to hold the government to the highest standard, particularly as it relates to the surveillance of American citizens. However, the FISC's rigor in protecting the rights of Americans, which is enforced by the 90-day renewals of surveillance orders, is necessarily dependent on the government's production to the court of all material and relevant facts. This should include information potentially favorable to the target of the FISA application that is known by the government. In the case of Carter Page, the government had at least 4 independent opportunities before the FISC to accurately provide an accounting of the relevant facts. However, our findings indicate that, as described below, material and relevant information was omitted. Number 1, the dossier compiled by Christopher Steele on behalf a British spy on behalf of the Democratic National Committee and the Hillary Clinton campaign formed an essential part of the Carter Page FISA application.
Wait, how do you know he's a British spy?
Oh. Isn't
that
he,
was
though?
Part of the story. Yeah, I think he was former British intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
I forget which particular branch.
I think MI6.
I mean, see, this kind of stuff is why I wanted to get the actual memo and not include commentary from the peanut gallery. I mean, the left-wing media. Because, because you know, their interpretation that the guy's a British spy may or may not be correct. You know.
Sure.
No, it's correct. He was former British intelligence.
Okay.
Anyways, I'm going to continue. And the Hillary Clinton campaign formed an essential part of the Carter Page FISA application. Steele was a longtime FBI source who was paid over $160,000 by the DNC and Clinton campaign via the law firm Perkins Coie and research firm Fusion GPS to obtain derogatory information on Donald Trump's ties to Russia. Neither the initial application in October 2016 nor any of the renewals disclose or reference the role of the DNC, Clinton campaign, or any party / campaign in funding Steele's efforts, even though the political origins of the Steele dossier were then known to senior DOJ and FBI officials. B. The initial FISA application notes Steele was working for a named U.S. person, but does not name Fusion GPS principal Glenn Simpson, who was paid by a U.S. law firm, Perkins Coie, representing the DNC, even though it was known by the DOJ at the time that political actors were involved with the Steele dossier. The application does not mention Steele was ultimately working on behalf of and paid by the DNC and Clinton campaign, or that the FBI had separately authorized payment to Steele for the same information.
Wait. So what this is saying is that the FBI and Department of Justice paid a British spy to spy on Trump for Hillary and the DNC.
No,
Is that is what it is saying?
and the DNC were paying for him to spy on Trump. The FBI just used the information he came up with through the course of that investigation.
And they it seems like they purposefully they
didn't reveal why he was investigating.
And they didn't reveal the people that were funding him.
Yes.
Wait,
why he was an interested party at all.
Steele was spying on.
Steele was hired by the Democrats to spy on Trump.
Okay, and the FBI just got information from Steele without telling the government properly.
Yes,
and omitting certain information in regards to who was actually funding him.
Yes, they didn't tell him. They didn't tell the court why he was spying or where the.
So we do have the FBI colluding with the Clinton campaign here.
Yes,
but not quite as directly as I just said.
Yeah, it's not like the FBI was paying Steele to spy on Trump for the Clinton.
Yeah, the FBI wasn't paying Steele. The DNC and Clinton were paying Steele.
Well, they were paying Steele, just not for spying on Trump.
Oh, I see. So the FBI used Steele to spy on Trump.
No.
Okay, I'm just. It's hard to keep all the relationships straight here, and
well, welcome to trying to understand intelligence of any kind.
Yeah, I know, and as Americans, we've historically been very, very bad at intelligence.
Actually, we're probably one of the better. No, never mind. It's not.
We're one of the best funded intelligence operations. But
no, our operation is very good for a democracy. Very good for a democracy.
Well, if you look at the track record of British intelligence, and then look at the track record
they don't have anywhere near the.
But they have James Bond.
We have.
No, seriously, the during World War II, the British intelligence was so good that they were running every single German agent in Britain.
Yeah.
American intelligence has never.
Well, not every single German agent, but most of them.
Can we please get back on topic, please?
I've read it was every single German agent.
Ben?
That may be an example. It's not important.
Ben, let's get back on topic.
We're live streaming this not just to read it. We're live streaming it to talk about it and understand it, right?
Well, let's finish the memo before we get off into the weeds.
Yeah, okay. So, Blackjack, just give us a quick rundown of what this says so far.
So basically what it's saying is that the DNC and the Clinton campaign hired this guy, Christopher Steele, to spy on Trump or to get any information on Trump regarding any involvement with Russia.
Through Carter Page.
Who
not necessarily Carter Page, just any involvement of the Trump campaign.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
So what then happened was then it turned out that Carter Page had some involvement with Russia. I have long since forgotten what that was, but basically it was used by the Clinton campaign. That information was given to the FBI, and the FBI used that information, selectively omitting details of how the information was acquired, to the court in order to essentially wiretap Mr. Page.
I think it was, yes. And this is highly immoral and possibly illegal.
Mr. Page being
Mr. Page being a member of the Trump campaign.
This is okay. Yeah, Carter Page is the guy from the Trump campaign being spied on.
Yes.
All right. Sorry. It's yeah. I mean, this kind of thing. I mean, we need a flow chart for this. You know?
I love how the live chat is talking about
we need a conspiracy wall, but we're on the internet, so we'll have to make it.
Anyways, I'm going to continue reading this. Okay, number 2. The Carter Page FISA application also cited extensively in a September 23rd, 2016 Yahoo News article by Michael Isikoff, which focuses on pages 20 July 2016 trip to Moscow. This article does not corroborate the Steele dossier because it is derived from information leaked by Steele himself to Yahoo News. The page FISA application incorrectly assesses that Steele did not directly provide information to Yahoo News. Steele has admitted in British court filings that he met with Yahoo News and several other outlets in September 2016 at the direction of Fusion GPS. Perkins Coie was aware of Steele's initial media contacts because they hosted at least one meeting in Washington, D.C. in 2016 with Steele and Fusion GPS where this matter was discussed.
And thus the legend of the Trump-Russia connection was born.
Mm-hmm. A. Steele was suspended and then terminated as an FBI source for what the FBI defines as the most serious of violations, an unauthorized disclosure of media to the media of his relationship with the FBI in an October 30th, 2016 Mother Jones article by David Korn. Steele should have been terminated for his previous undisclosed contacts with Yahoo and other outlets in September before the page application was submitted to the FISC in October, but Steele improperly concealed from and lied to the FBI about those contacts. B. Steele's numerous encounters with the media violated the cardinal rule of source handling, maintaining confidentiality, and demonstrated that Steele had become a less than reliable source for the FBI. So now it shows Steele is lying to the FBI about, his interactions with media and then broke a bunch of rules.
Yeah.
Number 3, before and after Steele was terminated as a source, he maintained contact with the Department of Justice via then Associate Attorney General Bruce Orr, a senior Department of Justice official who worked closely with Deputy Attorneys General Yates and later Rosenstein. Shortly after the election, the FBI began interviewing Orr, documenting his communications with Steele. For example, in 2016 September, Steele admitted to Orr his feelings against then-candidate Trump when Steele said he was desperate that Donald Trump not get elected and was passionate about him not being president.
Just to be clear, that's in quotes.
Yes, it's in quotes and in bold. So yeah, that he, quote, was desperate that Donald Trump not get elected and was passionate about him not being president, unquote. This clear evidence of Steele's bias was recorded by Orr at the time and subsequently in official FBI files, but not reflected in any of the page FISA applications, so more omissions. During the same time period, Orr's wife was employed by Fusion GPS, an associate with the DNC, to assist in the cultivation of opposition research on Trump. Orr later provided the FBI with all of his wife's opposition research, paid for by the DNC and Clinton campaign via Fusion GPS. The Orr's relationship with Steele and Fusion GPS was inexplicably concealed from the FISC. 4. According to the head of the FBI's Counterintelligence Division, Assistant Director Bill Priestap, corroboration of the Steele dossier was in its quote-unquote infancy at the time of the initial page FISA applications. After Steele was terminated, a source of validation report conducted by an independent unit within the FBI assessed Steele's reporting as only minimally corroborated. Yet in early 2017 January, Director Comey briefed President-elect Trump on a summary of the Steele dossier, even though it was, according to his June 2017 testimony, quote, salacious and unverified, unquote. While the FISA application relied on Steele's past record of credible reporting on other unrelated matters, it ignored or concealed his anti-Trump financial and ideological motivations. Furthermore, Deputy Director McCabe testified before the committee in December 2017 that no surveillance warrant would have been sought from the FISC without the Steele dossier information. Number 5, the page FISA application also mentions information regarding fellow Trump campaign advisor George, Greek name, but there is no evidence of any cooperation or conspiracy between Page and Papadopoulos. The Papadopoulos...
I was going to say, the entertainment level of this of this would be much diminished if you weren't going to at least attempt Papadopoulos.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Papadopoulos.
He's done
Yiannopoulos.
pretty good with Papadopoulos.
Yeah. Information triggered the opening of an FBI counterintelligence investigation in late July 2016 by FBI agent Pete Strunk. Strunk was reassigned by the Special Counsel's Office to the FBI Human Resources, you mean the SJW division, for improper text messages with his mistress, FBI attorney Talisa Page, no known relation to Carter Page, unfortunately, where they both demonstrated...
No, that's fortunate.
I know, but it makes it less interesting. Where they both demonstrated a clear bias against Trump and in favor of Hillary Clinton, whom Strauss, I don't know.
This guy, that first guy had a great name. This guy has a Klingon name.
Oh, it's Polish.
Look, sounds Hungarian. Who had also investigated these. I'm just gonna call him Strunk. The Strunk, Lisa Page, all texts also reflect extensive discussions about the investigation, orchestrating leaks to the media, and include a meeting with Deputy Director McCabe to discuss an quote-unquote insurance policy against President Trump's election.
Whoa, that's total bombshell. But yeah, this guy's name, he's got to be Strazok.
Strong. I keep thinking his name is Strong Sad. I mean, his name is Strong Mad.
It's Strazok. He's like he's like a Klingon warrior.
Can we turn the nerd down?
Yeah. This is not Star Trek. This is reality.
Okay.
So basically, this seems like there was numerous investigations funded by the DNC relating to Christopher Steele onto Carter Page to investigate the Trump campaign, and Steele showed a clear bias against Trump, and the FBI in their interactions with Steele and the DNC campaign was less than ethical and showed maybe more than a hint of bias because a large amount of information was omitted and not reflected in any of their reports to try and, it seems, make it seem like actually no, the DNC are not total scumbags.
Yeah, generally what happened here is the FBI displayed a lack of professionalism and integrity that I think is certainly befitting of its current standing.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think, Ben?
I'm trying to work out exactly how close the Clinton campaign was to this. I mean, we know the FBI screwed up and showed a serious anti-Trump prejudice, which it tried to hide from the government while it was trying to get authorization for surveillance on Trump. So we know that. But what confuses me is the exact degree to which the Clinton campaign is involved in this conspiracy wall.
Well, so just generally, the Clinton campaign went through so many proxies that to say they were directly coordinating with the FBI is inaccurate enough. I don't think there's really much there. You can say that you could say that certain individuals within the Clinton campaign were coordinating with people within the FBI, so you could do a conspiracy that way, but you can't actually directly link the Clinton campaign, or at least Mrs. Clinton herself, to...
Yeah, well, I figured we probably wouldn't be able to catch Hillary herself doing anything. That's usually how these things work. Like in Watergate, I think it's actually fairly unlikely that Nixon himself directly ordered the raids, because I think Nixon was a little bit more...
No. Well, I'm not an expert on Watergate, so maybe I shouldn't say no. But from what I understand, basically those raids were directly ordered by Nixon, or at least indirectly, or directly enough that it could be traced back to him in a meaningful way.
I would say you could maybe trace it back to him in a meaningful way, because from other things that were revealed in the Watergate scandal, it became clear that Nixon had ordered numerous other things that were pretty much just as bad.
Also, there's the night of
the actual Watergate raids, though. It looks like, at least my conclusion was, Nixon didn't actually order those specific ones. But
we could just look it up. I would much prefer we do that.
Build the team that did, he did put together the team and the organization that did it. and was using them for political warfare in other ways.
Like I said, I think we should just look it up if we're going to continue to talk about it.
Okay, well, that summary was based on having just read Legacy, or what was it? Enemies: A History of the FBI by Tim Weiner. Weiner, however you say it.
Okay. So, what can we take away from this? What did we learn today, kiddos?
Well, we learned a little bit about how to intelligence gobbledygook, and we learned that the FBI indeed was acting unprofessionally and was probably in breach of some form of regulation. I'm not an expert on the regulations.
So, do you think this is going to speed up Trump wanting to fire Rosenstein, Mueller, and other FBI leaders?
I think he already wants to. I still think it would be a stupid thing to do.
That's why I still love, like, apparently Trump just said when they asked him, is this going to, they're like, after he released the memo, is this going to influence your firing Rosenstein? He's just like, you figure it out.
I think if Rosenstein, I would hope Rosenstein would just resign. That would be the best for everybody.
I don't think anybody could go to jail over this.
Jail.
Or at least somebody's going to press charges.
I think that sounds unlikely to me based on what's been revealed. But what I think will probably happen is, well, the FBI is super embarrassed about this. And there's probably going to be heads that are going to roll over at the FBI.
Trump is going to use them as he's going to use them as his new golf balls at his course in Mar-a-Lago.
What Trump's probably going to try and do is use this to make all accusations having to do with Russia go away. That is why I think Trump wants to release this memo.
I'm still curious. So after more than a year of this investigation, what's been turned up about the Trump Russia? How much has actually turned up after a year of investigations?
Nothing, because there's nothing to find.
Well, I don't think there's anything substantial. I think what was it? They have evidence that Trump's son was at one point talking to some Russian guy who they think is the connection, but nothing that constitutes like any kind of proof of anything.
The Russian government was not, as I think a lot of lefties like to think, they were not like handing sacks of money to the Trump campaign.
I think, though, we should add this disclaimer real quick, is that we are not privy to the investigation. So we don't actually know what they know, but we can...
We love the FBI. We trust them completely, and the CIA. We love the government.
But we can make guesses. We can make guesses about what they do know, just based off...
I might say about this, I find the whole Trump-Russia thing, it doesn't seem to have a ring of truth for me personally. Now, if Trump had been like, I don't know, who's the biggest oil company in America? The biggest ExxonMobil, right. So if Trump had been taking money from ExxonMobil or something, I would have found that a lot more credible than the idea that Trump would be involved with the Russians.
Well, because you can sort of like blame the Russians for everything.
Well, yeah, that's the idea.
I mean, the whole Russia thing just doesn't seem like something Trump would do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, taking money from ExxonMobil or from other big companies for influence, that seems like something Trump would totally do. Because I don't think Trump is a saint. I think he's just as corrupt as any other politician. But Russia would get its way so much more effectively by keeping at least a little further than arm's length away from the Trump campaign than it would to do any of this. I mean,
well, so what Russia wants essentially is to actually, in many ways, Russia is getting its way now, because what Russia wants to happen is exactly what's happening. It wants sort of American democracy and chaos. It wants people challenging election results. saying
It
that
also
there's
wants a free
corrupt.
hand in the Middle East.
Well,
And
it doesn't want a free hand in the Middle East. It wants a free.
It wants a free
What
hand.
are you going to say? Well,
Hello?
Ben was yet to say.
you're breaking up, man.
Oh, am I breaking up?
Yeah, half of what you're saying is breaking up. Sorry.
The Russians are trying to stop me from telling you what the Russians.
Yes, I am. Igor will stop you.
No, what I was trying to say is the Russians basically just want American democracy and chaos, and they want they sort of want America to be more preoccupied with internal matters, so that it has basically the freedom to, I guess,
Whatever.
whatever limit its threat exposure right now, and it sees America as a major threat. So it wants America to be busy doing something else.
So somebody had something very interesting to say in the chat. They said some say the cat people are naturally predisposed to theft, but they're racist Yggdrasil supporters. Oh, they're all talking. They've been talking about Skyrim for the past half hour in the chat.
Fucking nerds.
Jeez.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't say. Fuck. I mean just nerds.
You people are children.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to get onto the chat. But I was I think that the Russians would reach their goals more effectively by staying away from the Trump campaign and later the Trump administration than by getting close to it, because they just want exactly what you just said. And getting directly involved with the Trump administration or the Trump campaign would be just such a huge risk. I mean, why expend so much effort on something you can get for free?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's essentially what they've done. And I think this is kind of your point, right? They've sort of created the appearance of coordination, or at least enough of an appearance to cause the opposition to Trump to panic and just basically run around with buckets on their head. I'll say it that way.
The other bizarre aspect of this whole Russia affair is that I've said this many times. The Democrats never seemed to recognize Russia as a threat all through the Cold War. It's only in 2016 that all of a sudden they wake up and realize, oh, Russia might be a problem.
But I think you need to differentiate between Russia and the Soviet Union. I think they didn't see the Soviets. And you know what? Let's be fair to that particular party. In the early part of the Cold War, they did recognize them as a threat, or at least a certain wing of the party did. Kennedy recognized the Russians as a threat.
Yeah, Kennedy did. That's true.
Truman did. Johnson.
FDR didn't.
But by the time you go back to Truman, you're going a long way back.
That's before
FDR did, yeah. Well, that's why I said LBJ did too, not FDR. FDR didn't. LBJ did. And then after LBJ, I believe he was basically the last. Carter
just wore a sweater.
Clinton. Honestly, what Clinton thought of the USSR was irrelevant because
it didn't exist.
They were.
Reagan beat it into submission.
No.
Well, I don't think it was necessarily Reagan so much as
I know. I'm joking.
They can afford.
Ronald Reagan literally punched the Berlin Wall down with his bare fists.
Oh, okay, yeah, fine. I'll just let the boomer myth go on. I'm not going to challenge.
Boomer McLean here.
That's that's I'm joking, of course.
Anyway, but back to the memo. What else could we? Because I thought it would be a lot larger than that, but oh well.
Well,
I mean,
it doesn't. It doesn't. Here's the thing. This is a memo. This isn't like a detailed report with sources. And this is basically an outline of what's going on. It doesn't contain any meaningful information. It just tells us essentially, I guess, the overview of the situation.
Mm-hmm. Right. And how was this information acquired by the Republican Party?
Well, so it wasn't. I guess the best way to put it is it wasn't acquired by the Republican Party exactly. It was acquired by the House Intelligence Committee,
Mhm.
and so, or I think it was the House Intelligence Committee. But either way, it would say at the top.
And so the Republicans all got on Twitter and started posting, released the memo after the House Intelligence.
Yeah, yes, because the Republicans on the basically this memo was created by the party in power in the House Intelligence Committee, which is the Republican Party, as sort of an outline, and they wanted it released because I mean, if this information is true, which I mean, you know, whether you trust Republicans or not is up to you. I think most of us here would say that these people.
I really want to see what the Huffington Post has to say about this.
Well, the Huffington Post is going to say it's all lies.
I can tell you what they're going to say. They're not going to be able to say that it's false.
Mm-hmm.
Not after the buildup that the Republicans have made of it, and not since all the surrounding information about it is how do you say, classified still. They're not going to be able to say it's just false. What they'll say, and what they were saying before it even came out, and what they're going to keep saying, is that you don't get all the context around it. And so it paints a deceptive picture, even though what it actually says happened, they'll say a whole bunch of other things happened that that would give us a different impression. Now, I don't expect them to actually win on that, because what they're trying to say to counteract the ideas that the memo represents is too subtle and complex for a soundbite. And as a result, I don't expect them to get very far with it.
So what's even funnier, first of all, is what CNN has to say. It says, this is how it starts right off the bat. CNN, what's their tagline now? What are they trying to say that they are?
Oh, I don't know.
Communist News Network?
I don't know. No, but it's like, you can trust us, whatever the hell their motto is.
News you can trust, something like that.
News you can trust. It says, headline, read the disputed memo here.
Yeah, they're not.
House Intelligence Chairman Devin Nunes, a race traitor. He's a conservative Hispanic.
I think he's also a Mormon.
Republican California put together this highly controversial. Put together this highly controversial memo released Friday, alleging the FBI abused its surveillance tools. Yes, it violated and broke its pencils. The FBI issued a rare public warning on Wednesday that the memo omits key information that could impact its veracity, and that if released, there will be a nuclear war with Russia. President Donald Trump, who decided to release the memo anyways, has told friends he believes the memo would expose bias within the agency's top ranks and make it easier for him to argue the Russia investigations are prejudiced against him, according to two sources. And then read blah, 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 blah. And it just has the thing of the...
And we might read the FBI's actual statement, because,
I do have it.
You have it?
Let me find
I've got it right here if you want me to read it. It's just one paragraph.
Yeah, can you link it to me, though?
2 paragraphs. I'll link it in our chat here.
Thank you. Because I want to link these in the description of the video.
FBI memo.
Thank you.
Here's what the FBI says. Quote, the FBI takes seriously its obligations to the FISA court and its compliance with procedures overseen by career professionals in the Department of Justice and the FBI. We are committed to working with the appropriate oversight entities to ensure the continuing integrity of the FISA process. Also, juggalos are terrorists. With regard to the House Intelligence Committee's memorandum, the FBI was provided a limited opportunity to review this memo the day before the committee voted to release it.
So they couldn't censor it beforehand. How horrible.
Yeah. As expressed during our initial review, we have grave concerns about material omissions of fact that fundamentally impact the memo's accuracy. So they're not saying that anything in the memo isn't true. What they're saying is, if you knew the whole story, then we'd probably find out that both parties are bad.
Wait, no. Apparently, the Republicans have already said we're perfectly fine with a Democrat memo that the certain Democratic congressman, or I think in the Democrat Intelligence Committee, they want their own
No, it's the
memo.
same Intelligence Committee.
Okay. Anyways,
It's one Intelligence Committee, and then you have essentially the Republican members and the Democrat members. It's
okay.
sort of equal, but
in any case, yeah,
the Republicans are in charge of the committee.
Yeah,
Yes.
These committees, they don't.
They still keep talking about freaking Skyrim and Elder Scrolls in the chat.
Well, it's because this isn't particularly interesting. I mean, it's basically just we went over a brief document, and then sort of the obvious ramifications of this, which is that heads are going to roll in the FBI, and I mean, we've kind of exhausted all.
I might say that the FBI in general has been screwing up a lot lately.
Well, it's not so much that they've been screwing up. I mean, there is actually evidence of direct collusion with the Clinton administration, at least as far as the Attorney General is concerned, Miss Loretta Lynch. And the couple's emails, or not emails, text messages, do actually display that Comey knew Hillary was going to be acquitted before he even appeared, or before the investigation had even concluded, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
The investigation into the Clinton campaign that happened a while back.
No, the investigation into the emails.
Oh.
What about Bill Clinton's rape investigation?
Oh, that's dead. That's long gone.
What are you talking about? Yeah, that was like 20 years ago.
I know. But the Huffington Post article on this is even more priceless. Here's its title. The GOP memo Trump hoped would stop Mueller's Russia probe is a misleading dud. The much-hyped document reveals almost no new information. It's full of inaccuracies and omissions. Washington, quote, in a move intended to undermine special counsel didn't do nothing Robert Mueller's investigation into Russian involvement into the 2016 election, which, even though we have absolutely zero evidence of, still absolutely happened. President evil Donald Trump on Friday approved the declassification of a Republican-authored memo that alleges the Justice Department and FBI inappropriately spied on a member of the Trump campaign. The memorandum raises serious concerns about the integrity. The memorandum raises serious concerns about the integrity of decisions made at the highest level of the Department of Justice and the FBI to use the government's most intrusive surveillance tools against American citizen, unquote, White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders said in a statement on Friday.
You know, one thing that strikes me about this is we just had Martin Luther King Jr. Day just last month, right? And one of the things they make a big deal out of is the FBI illegally spying on Martin Luther King. And I mean, leftists, when they comment on that is just a big deal. Even though the FBI never arrested Dr. King, the FBI wasn't roughing up King's family or anything like that. They were just wiretapping him, and illegally wiretapping him. Let's be honest here. It was an illegal wiretap. But here we have the FBI spying on Trump and then lying to the government in order to get authorization for the spying.
I mean, this is not surprising at all. This is the constant double standards of you switch your allegiance anytime it's politically convenient for you, because FBI is evil because they're racist. Oh wait, no, they were spying on Trump. The FBI didn't do nothing. And then it's the same. It's a thing with James. This thing happened with James Comey constantly because, okay, he's going to investigate Clinton. The Democrats, the left is like, we hate James Comey. He's evil. He's trying to stop Hillary Clinton. She was a good girl. He then drops the investigation. Oh, he was great. He was with us all along. He picked up the investigation again. Oh, he's evil. Trump fires him. Oh, he was good all along.
I mean, all of that though was just political maneuvering by Comey. Nothing was actually happening.
Is he real? Is he the one playing 5-dimensional chess behind all of this? Is he going to be president in 2020?
But I think he accidentally checkmated himself when Trump fired him. I think it was.
I think
Get out of my office now.
I think
honestly, what happened, I think,
president in 2020
it's kind of like that Indiana Jones scene with the guy with the sword work, and Comey's the guy with the fancy sword work, and then Trump just shoots him. I think that's pretty much
yeah.
Yeah, I do think that this memo is likely to make the Russia accusation go away, but they can still just say that Trump is ordinary run-of-the-mill corrupt, which he probably is. So, I mean, they've got a point there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I still have to read this. The HuffPo one just gets funnier and funnier. Republicans have hyped the memo's release for weeks, calling it worse than Watergate, quote unquote, while Democrats and the FBI have warned that the document omits key context and that making it public could damage national security and further undermine the public's faith in the nation's premier law enforcement organizations. So releasing to the public information that's based on this of this nature is apparently bad for national security.
I'm even though I've read it, I'm not seeing this as being as bad as Watergate.
No, probably not.
It's not.
It's certainly something, but
I mean, it's a scandal, but it's not a Watergate level scandal.
It's not Watergate at all.
We didn't find Hillary Clinton and the FBI working to assassinate Donald Trump and his family, unfortunately.
That would be worse than Watergate. Watergate didn't involve an assassination plot, at least.
I don't necessarily know if I'd say that's unfortunate either.
Well, I just want things to be interesting, darn it. But
I'd be very surprised if I would be very surprised if I learned that Clinton or the DNC were involved in any kind of assassination plot.
They were involved in spirit cooking, though.
I would be very surprised to learn that because they're political operators and they know that the risks involved in something like that far outweigh any possible.
I know. But I'm just going to continue. But the 4-page document, which was drafted by Republican staffers in the Office of House Intelligence Committee Chairman and Trump transition team Devin Nunes, Republican California, reveals little new information. Its author focuses on complaints of liberal bias. You're not liberal. You're leftist. You're not good liberalists like Sargon. Among mostly Republican law enforcement officials, while omitting information that does not fit their narrative. You mean that's relevant. The resulting document is boring and tendentious. I don't even know what that word means. And it's hard to understand why Republicans were so excited to get it out and why the FBI and Democrats were so determined to keep it a secret. It's such a dud that it was probably more valuable to Republicans when it was still a secret document. We read it so you don't have to. Oh, that's lovely. That's not ominous at all.
Yeah, no. This is a pretty serious scandal because it shows the FBI is intentionally deceiving the government in order to spy on Trump, in order to prevent Trump getting elected. That is a serious scandal. I don't think we've got the connection with the Clinton campaign direct enough to really implicate the Clinton campaign in this, but it certainly does show that the deep state is real.
I'm getting sick of the alt-right talking about the whole Jewish conspiracy, though. I'm sick of that because we know the reality is it was the Freemasons, not the Jews. It was the Freemasons.
Yeah, well, by deep state, I mean that people's careers in organizations like the FBI span multiple presidencies, but the extent to which
until Trump becomes president,
the extent to which these organizations will cooperate with or do the bare minimum for different administrations will differ depending on the politics of the people involved and how the administration treats that organization and the people running it and so on. Like, for instance, J. Edgar Hoover, he got along real well with certain very anti-communist presidents, didn't get along so well with certain other presidents, you know? So the deep state isn't like an organized conspiracy. It's just the attitudes of people who work in government across the years and how they treat different incoming administrations differently. And it's a function of how short the election cycles in the United States are. Because
Short? What?
Well,
Yeah,
They
they're
last
short.
like a year and a half.
No.
What,
I
compared
mean,
to other
like, he
countries?
means 4 years between presidential
Oh.
elections, 2 years in between.
Oh, I thought you meant the actual campaign.
I mean, the FBI and every other alphabet soup government entity is full of people who work in government for 20 or 30 years, and they see presidents come and go.
And do you know what the political leanings of most of these people in the government
What his
are?
national treasure wants. Sorry.
And what do you think the political leaning of the vast majority of these non-elected bureaucrats is?
Well,
Oh, probably.
I think they'd have a lot more loyalty to the party that's going to boost their budgets the most. So that's why I think the military leans Republican, and other parts of the government lean Democrat.
Well, even besides that, a lot of these bureaucrats are college educated, which already
That
indicates.
too.
I mean, college indoctrinated.
Whereas the majority of people who join the military, like most of the NCOs, are from rural states. So
MCO, remind me what that.
non-commissioned
Yeah.
officer.
Oh, this is even.
Well, yeah, but in terms of the military's attitude, we have to be thinking about the actual officers, though.
Oh, well, no, not necessarily. The NCOs play a big part in the military's attitude.
Like,
Officers lead the military, but NCOs run it. So
This girl dressed up as Michelle Obama for school, and Michelle loved it. So she dressed up as a man.
what?
It's a Huffington Post article.
Yeah. So, but I mean, even officers, like, you have certain outliers, like that guy Spencer Rapone, who was a communist that went through West Point. And I do worry about the majority of West Point grads nowadays. But officers, for the most part, I would say lean Republican. So, although just by the nature of them having to be, so there are a couple of ways you can become an officer, right? You can go through the ROTC course, which is go to your university, take a class for 4 years, graduate with a degree, and get a commission in the Army. You can go through West Point, or you can be promoted from an NCO to an officer. So basically, what the requirements are nowadays is that you have to be an NCO with a bachelor's degree, and they'll send you to OCS, or you can just go to OCS with a bachelor's degree, either one. OCS is Officer Candidate School.
okay.
I thought it stood for Owl Correspondence School from Mr. Rogers.
Sure, but either way, officers do tend to come for the most part out of ROTC.
The point is,
Still come from,
well, we're trying to get. Can we get back to the point rather than going over every single military
Oh, sorry.
abbreviation?
Yes, I'm sorry. I had a bit of an autism fit there. Yeah, for the most part, officers I would say are Republican. They come from.
But that's likely to change as the military's training methods become more and more social justice.
Oh, look.
Well, so the training depends on the NCOs.
So I've never thought I'd see the day that, when the Huffington Post makes has an article praising John McCain for being against releasing the memo.
Seriously, in John McCain's world, there are two parties: Democrats and Democrats.
90% is too high, Charlie. I'd say it's much more like 75, 80.
So
That's
what do
probably
you
not
think-
that far.
what do you think the Huffington Post thought of John McCain back in 2008?
Oh, he was the devil, of course.
The Army doesn't.
Well,
I'm sorry.
Because
This is what they're saying about him. Go ahead.
he was the new Hitler because he was the Republican nominee, and that automatically makes him
And
Hitler.
he was an old white man.
Yeah.
And he picked an evil Nazi woman to be his vice president.
I mean,
But
it's not surprising the way that the media acts towards Republicans. And I don't think it's...
Senator John McCain on Nunes memo release. We are doing Putin's job for him, quote unquote. The Arizona senator blasted the memo which Donald Trump declassified against the wishes of the intelligence community. Senator John McCain, Republican Arizona, delivered a harsh rebuke against fellow Republicans who agreed to release a memo against state intelligence Chairman Devin Nunes against the wishes of the U.S. Intelligence Committee. Nunes on Friday released the memo after President Donald Trump declassified it. The memo alleges that the FBI officials displayed active bias against the Trump campaign in the early stages of the Russia investigation, which was later taken over by Special Counsel Robert Mueller. In a statement shortly before the memo was released, McCain didn't pull any punches. Quote, in 2016, the Russian government engaged in an elaborate plot to interfere in the American election and undermine our democracy, McCain said. Russia employed the same tactics it has used to influence elections around the world, from France to Germany to Ukraine, Montenegro, and beyond. McCain's, unquote. McCain said Russia's interference has at best sown political discord and succeeded in, quote unquote, dividing us from each other. Attacking the intelligence community is not how to fix the discord, he said. No, you have to go into the new Discord server. Ahead of the its impending releases, the FBI took the extraordinary step of issuing a public statement to express its, quote, grave concerns about material omissions of fact that fundamentally impact the memo's accuracy. So why is he a Republican again?
So McCain is
understand.
doing what he always does. He's taking the side of the intelligence community. I think the majority of the reason, or the largest reason why the intelligence community doesn't want the memo released, it makes them look bad.
Yeah.
They're trying not
How
to
dare
look
the
bad.
American people know the truth?
I mean, that's kind of part of working in intelligence work is that
Everyone I don't like is a Russian. That's very true.
for McCain, yes.
Also, I love there was like a Time magazine article, 2 Time magazine articles, one from the late 90s and one from this recent election, like one talking about how bad it is, how like Russia's trying to influence the election, and then one from the late 90s where it's like Uncle Sam has helped influence the Russian elections. Isn't that great? Okay, so it's only okay when the US influences elections.
Well, you have to understand that we're kind of biased towards the U.S., right?
Yeah, I know.
Or
But still.
I think that's fine. But what I was going to say is that McCain...
Go ahead.
I was going to say McCain is kind of right when he says we're doing Vladimir Putin's job for him. I think that, though, the primary responsibility for this lies on the ones who continually push this Russian conspiracy theory without any evidence. I think the people who are doing Vladimir Putin's job for him.
I think that actually want to further the investigation.
People who think there's something to investigate. People who just want to get rid of Trump by any means necessary are people who are doing Vladimir Putin's job for him. I think doing more to undermine the state of the republic just by themselves than Vladimir Putin could ever hope to do alone.
Because they're making people paranoid as well.
I honestly think that I think that this is probably, if this ends the way I think it ends, I think future generations could probably point back to this day and say this is the day that the republic was visibly dying.
Well, oh, come on. This is not that big.
Not the memo, Ben. I'm not talking about the memo. I'm talking about the way that the Democrats are acting as far as the Russian investigation goes. The memo itself is not a big deal.
I can't see the whole Russian conspiracy theory as being that important long term.
I don't think. Actually, can I say something about this? I think it's not even. Hold on.
With Bush, there was a very similar thing about the Saudis, and it actually had more evidence.
He was actually working with us.
Anyways, I'm gonna say, I don't think it's necessarily this specific instance with Russia itself. It's the fact that the Democrats have pretty much openly shown that they have lost their regard for, basic ethics regulations when it comes to running the government, or in terms of they're perfectly happy to violate the law in order to get to achieve their political aims. And when you get to that point, when you think Donald Trump is so terrible and that the ends justify the means, to the point where you can break the law and do anything just to get rid of him, well, that shows that that's when the actual democratic process really starts breaking down, because the entire democratic process, depends on representatives actually agreeing to, obey laws and respect the rights of their opponents.
I mean, this whole Trump is Hitler thing, like they act like Trump is just the ultimate expression of evil in the world, and I'm like, no, Trump isn't competent enough for that.
Hillary Clinton maybe, but
yes, I would say Hillary Clinton is certainly competent at being evil, but
I mean, she's certainly competent at looking evil.
No, I do have to say, Hillary, I mean, Wicked Witch of the West Wing. That's how she looks.
Mm-hmm. Nancy Pelosi being the Wicked Witch of the East. No, Hillary Clinton is the Wicked Witch of the East. Pelosi's the Wicked Witch of the West, because she's from California.
Yeah, I just said West Wing because she was the first lady.
Well, I think we're overthinking this, and I also think we probably reached the end of this conversation.
What else can we? I think how long have we been doing this for? Like about an hour.
We've been doing it for about an hour.
Okay, well, let's just see anything.
Let's post the stream invite on 4chan.
No. This is the maximum amount.
I'm gonna leave.
Okay. Well, thanks for coming on, Blackjack. We'll just wrap it up. Actually. Just give us. Let's just share our closing thoughts. I'll start. So yeah, this is still. I would basically agree with you two here that it's certainly a scandal. It does not surprise me that there was collusion with the FBI omitting certain details about the election, and that there were elements that really just did not want Trump elected. It's not, and it also is not I think what a lot of people wanted it to be, which is, there was stacks of money and people and assassins and, secret agents and James Bond style action movies going on behind the scenes. It was more like, we're just going to admit certain facts about this investigation. Maybe heads will roll, maybe interesting things will happen. Blackjack, what do you think?
I think that the memo shows or sort of confirms what a lot of people at least thought to be true. I don't think we can say enough that we're all amateurs, and that this is
sort of our armchair view of this.
But so I mean, as far as what I think the memo shows, I think it basically gives a narrative outline of what the case looks like, as far as the view from the Senate Intelligence, the House Intelligence Committee.
Mm-hmm.
Think that we will probably see a lot of changes in the Justice Department, especially in the FBI.
I think we're probably already going to see that anyway.
Well, yeah, but I think...
aspect of this we haven't talked about is the Yahoo News and Mother Jones connection.
Oh, wait.
Well,
I just got a super chat from...
just real quick, basically what that was is that the spy, I guess is what we'll call him, Mr. Steele, basically leaked information to both of those publications without the FBI's knowledge.
Yeah, but from those publications' perspective, though, doesn't this violate some rules of journalism?
I just have to make one statement right now. Thank you, Son of Tiamat, for a super chat of $2.
Oh, that's so nice.
Mm-hmm. Anyways,
but so just to finish up my closing statement, this memo is not like end of the world for Hillary Clinton or the Clinton campaign or anything like that. It's probably
not going to successfully run for president again. That's not going to happen.
Well, we'll see. She didn't successfully run the first time, but
that's what I'm saying. And
no, this was not her first time. This was her second or third. When
she's tried running several times. This is the closest she ever got, and she's not going to get.
She lost to a game show host.
She's not going to get the nomination next time.
Yes, but well, depends on how many.
The DNC is more interested in winning than in Hillary.
We'll see. But
I wonder who they'll pick next time. Go ahead. Sorry. Yeah.
I think that Rosenstein. If Rosenstein was actually a good person, I think he'd resign. I don't think he's a good person personally, so I think he'll wait to be fired. I think Trump is going to use the memo as an excuse to fire a lot of people. I think he's going to go after Mueller, which I think is a mistake on his part. I think, though, at the end of the day, this memo changes ultimately very little. I don't think it's going to stop the Russian investigation or the screaming about, or the autistic screeching, rather, about the...
the media's never going to stop that.
Yeah. So, I mean, at the end of the day, what this is just, I guess you'd call it a minor political victory for the Republicans, and that they've sort of demonstrated that they at least understand how to play a narrative game in a limited fashion. I think in the memo is probably true.
I think what's in the memo is true. I think that the Republicans, if they're smart, they are going to play this into making the Russian conspiracy theory go away. And that's why they did it. Because
I don't think they can do that.
After this, the whole Russia narrative's tainted. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to make all the other stuff that Trump can be accused of go away. But I think we're going to start seeing less emphasis on the Russia stuff after this from the Democrats, from the left-wing media. I think that they aren't going to be dwelling on the Russia connection quite as much as they were before. They're going to shift to the half a dozen other things they can accuse Trump of.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's my prediction.
Oh, so somebody in the chat said, Ben, well, he asked us, are you ready for 8 years of Hillary? I mean, 8 years of Oprah?
Honestly, I think Oprah has more of a chance of getting the Democrat nomination than Hillary.
Mm-hmm. I mean, because
she certainly has a chance.
They certainly can't pick Bernie. They can't pick Hillary. They probably can't pick Bernie Sanders because he's too old.
Yeah.
He'll be, what, like 127?
No, he'll be like 78 or something.
They need to get. They're going to need to get some younger people.
They should get some coffee drinking. They should get some Starbucks drinking millennial to run.
Yeah.
Anyway, I've really got to go.
All right. Thanks, Blackjack. See ya.
Oprah might have a chance because, unlike with Hillary Clinton, even though, I mean, Oprah's a big lefty, people don't hate her the way people hate Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton got the Republicans out to vote for Trump in a way that I think Sanders even wouldn't have managed to.
Well, actually, I think it was more the opposite. It was more the inverse of that. Is she got Democrats to stay home on the election? That too. I mean, Hillary is just toxic because anything bad that anybody can say about the Clinton administration, it's auto copy pasted onto her. And what can people say about whether that's fair or not? It really hurt her viability as a candidate and made me just go, what? When they nominated her. And the instant they nominated her, I thought, wow, the Republicans are totally going to win. But then the Republicans nominated Trump, and they nominated the two most the two least likable people to be the candidates. Least likable people available, and that's when I called it for Hillary, and I called it wrong. Although the thing is, I think Trump would have had a better, because again, there seems to be two narratives when it came to the election of Trump was probably the best person to run against Hillary, and he was the only person that could have won, or the Republicans won in spite of Trump, and that if they had pitched somebody like Ted Cruz or Marco Rubio, they would have completely steamrolled Hillary even more.
I think Rubio might have had a better chance than Cruz because
he doesn't have a scary-looking face.
Yeah, he's not quite as scary.
But he sounds like a robot.
Yeah, that's true. Cruz would be much easier to paint as an extremist.
Mm-hmm.
And Rubio would seem relatively more moderate, and that might have helped Rubio. But I guess, it's too late now. We got Trump, and I'm calling that...
I'm Trump.
I'm predicting Trump to win in 2020.
And just thinking, I mean, I was
totally never Trump, Mr. Parker Grove from the chat.
Mm-hmm.
I was totally never Trump during the election. I thought that nominating Trump was a terrible idea. I thought that everything Trump was saying was the result of political calculations. When it wasn't stupid. It was either stupid because he hadn't calculated, or was the result of political calculations. I just thought that he was as phony as a $4 bill. And
I'm going to put my face in the $4 bill. It'll be the best dollar bill you've ever seen.
Exactly. And so I just didn't vote for president. I did vote for my local Republicans in Congress. And then Congress passed a budget that still funded Planned Parenthood after they said they were going to stop the funding to Planned Parenthood. And so now I feel super, super betrayed by the Republican Party. Unless they defund Planned Parenthood, I can't see voting for Republicans ever again, because when you vote for a Democrat, you get bad Democrat policies. And when you vote for a Republican, you get bad Democrat policies.
You get slightly slowed down Democrat policies, and what we need is not the slowing down conservatism. We need actual radical, reactionary ideas and change happening.
We need a resistance party that is prepared to govern when they win.
I actually think what we need more is a cultural movement.
Well, yeah, but we're discussing politics at the moment.
Sure.
Ultimately, politics is not the solution to our problems.
I do think, however, we could have I'm because when I looked at the German elections with the AfD, they're large, because it seems like Merkel and the SPD, the center right and the center. Well, no, more likely it's imagine the Democrats and the Super Democrats forming a political coalition again, even though the SPD leader, Martin Schulz, said he absolutely wouldn't after they got screwed over in the German elections because people were finally tired of all the migrants. If that coalition comes together, then the AfD, which got about 12 to 13% of the vote in the election, will become the main opposition party in the German parliament, which gives them certain powers and a certain sort of status. And that's bad, because then they can just do what every good opposition party does, and in which they're in a perfect position to do, which is basically say every problem that happens in the country is Merkel and her coalition's fault. But because what's funny though, in some of their dealings, one of the demands by the SPD under Martin Schulz was, we need to push for a United States of Europe in the next 5 years. So we need to get rid of the EU and just make Europe into one country, like complete European federalization. It's like, yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, I mean that's unlikely to happen, and it would be even worse than the EU if it did happen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't keep up with European politics quite as much. I know that they're having some kind of struggle over the 8th Amendment in is it Ireland?
Oh yeah. The 8th Amendment to their constitution bans abortion in most cases, and they want to have they're going to have a referendum this year whether or not to repeal it.
Yeah, and
and to legalize killing babies.
Yeah.
Even though apparently Ireland was one of the few countries in Europe.
I try
even
to
though Ireland.
I try to retweet keep the 8 stuff whenever I see it.
Mm-hmm. But the thing is, it's like apparently, like Ireland, or in some reports, was one of the only countries in Europe that had a net positive natural birth rate, and now they want to get rid of that because they want to let you just kill the babies.
Yeah. I mean, I'm so totally not alt-right, but the left is so race obsessed, and I'm so anti-left that I find myself so increasingly in common cause with alt-right people.
I think when it comes, all right, sorry, keep going.
And I feel bad about that because I really don't believe in racialist ideologies, but the left really is very anti-white.
Mm-hmm.
And they are creating the perfect conditions for a pro-white racial politics resurgence.
The thing that I've been
on creating and reinforcing and building up the conditions for that resurgence to happen.
And I think that the problem is that what would be interesting is because something that I've heard a lot from the distributist, because I have to plug him once every video now, is that because apparently now I'm V to his Sargon. Anyways, that you don't buy a decreasing share, you don't buy an increasing share of a decreasing stock. So let's look at the Republican Party, because if you look at the demographics that vote Republican, the only race that actually seems to vote largely Republican is white people. And white people are making up a decreasing share of the American population. And it seems no matter what has been attempted, that Republicans, conservatives cannot, no matter what they do, get Black people, Hispanics, and Asians to vote Republican. And I'm thinking, I wonder what the Republicans are going to think. Well, we can't actually increasingly become a pro-white party because white people keep decreasing in this country because we can't get our act together with immigration.
Yeah, it's kind of a...
And at that point...
It's a what's the word for when you can't get out either way from a situation?
You're screwed?
There's a word for that. It's a set of numbers. It's a catch-22. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was trying to find the phrase. It's a catch-22.
Yeah. But I think when it comes to races, my view about the alt-right is generally I'm in a lot of ways in favor. I'm against what they're against, all the horrible anti-white policies pushed by the left. But I'm generally not in favor of the things they're in favor for, or I don't prioritize what they're in favor for, because I can understand the arguments for why ethnic homogeneity can lead to a more sort of stable and peaceful society, and that countries should be able to have whatever immigration policy that they want. Like the Japanese, there's nothing wrong with the Japanese saying we want our immigration policy to make it so that the Japanese people will continue to be the overwhelming majority of people living in Japan. I don't think that's actually immoral. Now, the problem is, of course, when it comes to a country like the United States, which has a large diversity of races within its own country, especially African Americans who have been here for, centuries, and how that's dealt with.
We got something about that whenever you finish.
But yeah, thank you. The problem, and again, I'm not going to say anything about race realism. I'm, again, with the distributist here, I'm agnostic on it. And the fact that I think that there's a better way, though, to go about how you deal with this issue than to advocate for a white ethno-state, because I think the problems that face us in the modern world won't be largely, even if ethnic homogeneity would fix certain issues, I don't think it can fix the majority of the issues that face the modern world. Because, again, Iceland is like 97-point-something% white. They got a lot of problems there with leftism.
Yeah. Now, I might say about American blacks, I really think that we need to stop saying African American. And the reason is because most American blacks
I've never been to Africa.
They've never been to Africa. They've never seen Africa. They have no African language or culture. They have no African religion. They can't tell you what part of Africa their
What about Kwanzaa?
They can't tell you what part of Africa their ancestors came from, and they get offended if you ask. That's not African. They are not Africans anymore. They are Black Americans, and they have a uniquely Black American heritage. And they belong in America. And so I think both the left-wing anti-white racialists want to say African American for reasons of class warfare, but the alt-right also want to say African American to suggest that they're somehow interlopers in a country that by rights ought to belong to white people. And I think both sides on that are wrong. That Black Americans are Black Americans. They're not African Americans.
I absolutely love certain quotes that Ben Franklin said about race, because I think he had to have been joking, because if he wasn't, he was the largest racist that ever lived, because he apparently thought that the only real white people were people from the UK, were the Anglo-Saxons. Because he said that the Germans and Swedes are largely swarthy in complexion. He thought that Swedish people, now this is not Sweden today, this is Sweden in the late 18th century, so when it was 100% white, he thought they were of tawny, swarthy complexion, like,
Franklin?
Benjamin Franklin. I think, though, apparently he considered white people basically, the only white people would be like the English, the Welsh, the Scottish, and the Scotch Irish, and then he liked them, and he liked Native Americans. I almost think it's like he wanted to create like a super race of Native Americans and white people.
Oh yeah. The American, what did he call him? It was the American something. I forget what he called them. Yeah, Franklin was a very interesting character. At the same time, Franklin was the founder of the first anti-slavery society in America. So let's not forget that.
He was also America's first minister to Sweden.
Really, I didn't. When was he that?
Let me look it up. Hold on.
I know he was our ambassador to France for quite a while, but I didn't know about Sweden. I had a friend who just moved to Sweden. Now works for the game that makes that
from
game,
17
Crusader Kings game you guys all play.
Oh yeah, September 1782 to April 1783. So for a few months, he was in the 1780s. He was the minister to Sweden.
Okay. So I think we are. Oh, what is the? All Swedes are basically black.
There's a picture of a black guy, but with like a blonde afro, like dyed hair, and it just says, "Trust me, I'm Swedish."
Yeah, that's a big part of the problem with racialist doctrines is how white do you have to be to count as white?
And it's a specifically American problem, because it's like, okay, if you want to be an ethno-nationalist in Europe, it's like, all right, I want Germany for the Germans, France for the French, England for the English. So
you could argue it makes a little bit more sense in Europe, but in America, no, just no.
I mean, the thing is, I think you and me would have some of the best claims to actually being, that sort of pure white Americans that the founding fathers were thinking of.
Yeah, I got a Russian Jewish grandma.
Oh goodness. And I'm part Italian.
Great grandma.
But yeah, I think like, because I could just say then, because it's like, we need to get rid of all the non-whites, or I could say, okay, well then when do you Italian mixed race weirdo get out?
And then of course there's a big problem with how all of these racialist things work. And that is they form organizations and institutions and infrastructures on both sides, both on the pro-white side and the anti-white side. Both sides form organizations, and those organizations have to continue to justify their existence in order for their leaders to keep on a hold of their power, even after any problems that they were originally formed to solve have been solved. So even though we have passed the Civil Rights Act, for instance, we still have the NAACP.
I always get the NBA confused with the NAACP.
It's the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Leftist Colored People.
Mm-hmm. For anti-white people.
Yeah. I remember when I was a kid in the 90s, they were starting to say that using the phrase colored people is bad.
And then they brought it back.
Then they brought it back because they can never make up their minds. They don't want a nomenclature that becomes comfortable and familiar and inoffensive, because their entire political machine runs on offense.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as people stop feeling offended, these groups stop feeling needed, and then they stop getting funded and they start losing their power. So they have to keep the outrage culture going. The thing is, this applies to white racialists too. I don't have as much evidence of that, I must admit, but once you have your ethno-state, the political apparatus that you've constructed in order to achieve your ethno-state is going to continue to exist, and its leaders are going to need to hang on to their power. And how are they going to hang on to their power? Well, of course, they're going to need to keep the same political strategy working that they've been using so far. And so there still have to be people in the country for them to fight against. And so the purity percentage that you have to be to count as white is going to go up. Yeah. I mean, you have to be more and more pure of that race.
So Ben, are you still saying Bajor for the Bajorans?
Yeah, what I'm saying is racialism always descends into purity spiraling.
Mm-hmm. And I think as we wrap up, I could say I think I could invite you, or at some point before while I'm reading up on it, I've been thinking philosophically in terms of like the broad sort of effects of certain philosophical schools, because I hear from people like Sargon and a lot of people on the anti-SJW side talking about how horrible Hegelian and continental philosophy is, and how great the analytic, Atlantic school with the UK and America were. But I'm starting to rethink that, because it's like, well, if the end result of British philosophy of Loki, Hobbes, Burke,
Locke. It's Locke.
Yeah. No, but apparently tell Andy Worski that, because he thought it was Loki.
Locke.
If it's autistic screeching about liberalistism by Sargon, it's like, oh, what a wonderful conclusion to your ideology of autistic fun time with pure abstractions.
Right. Well, this is a point on which we have disagreed in the past. Because you're a monarchist and I'm an American constitutionalist. But I might say about monarchism that I do think that whatever else bad I might say about monarchists, they do have a much better than any other I've heard solution to the problem of obesity. Monarchists. You see,
What?
a monarchist response to the problem of obesity is let them eat less cake.
Ha 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 ha. But that's. I might have to kill you for that joke now. I'm gonna have to go to misery and take you out. But I think to wrap this up, I'm gonna say like I definitely want to read more. I want to read up on Hegel because I think he sort of gets a bad rap because it's like I don't think you can blame him for communism. I think you can, in the same way, like this is the purity spiraling thing that I don't like the original vampire of, well, if we can just go back in time, or if we can just say, hey, Martin Luther and the Protestants caused all of the problems that ever happened in history ever. It's like, okay, what does that help us with? Do we have a time machine? Can we go go back in time and kill Martin Luther? No. Okay. Because in that case, you can just link it to,
if you went back in time and killed Martin Luther, then I think you'd have
you probably get it even worse.
You'd get something that was much, much worse than Protestantism, in my opinion.
Mormonism.
Catholics would be facing a rebellion that may not have stuck as close to the Bible as Protestants have at least tried to. And that's putting it mildly.
Mm-hmm. Well, you wouldn't have gotten the Counter-Reformation, which addressed a lot of these issues and fixed Catholicism of a lot of the issues that we're facing it as to why the Reformation happened in the first place.
That too. I mean, I have to tell, Catholic, folks, I have to say, look, I mean, no matter how bad you think that the Protestant Reformation or the schism caused by the Protestantism is, the problems within the Catholic Church were very, very serious, and nothing like the Protestant Reformation would have been possible without the internal problems in the Catholic Church making it happen.
Mm-hmm. But I think, but leading from that, I think you can't complain. You can't say that if it wasn't for Hegel, Marxism wouldn't have happened, because again, it's the same argument as saying, well, Marx was influenced by Aristotle, therefore it's Aristotle's fault that Marxism happened.
Sure. That one Twitter comment by me wasn't necessarily the most serious thing in the world.
Yeah, it's fine.
Although I might say, though, that Hegel does something very dangerous in that he kind of messes with the definition of truth. Mm-hmm. That he doesn't mess with it quite as much as maybe some others, but anytime you do that, anytime you stray from Aristotle's clear definition of truth, mm-hmm. you're asking for trouble. Mm-hmm. And Aristotle's clear definition of truth is, and I quote, he who says, this is from memory, he who says of a thing that it is, and of a thing that is not, that it is not, speaks the truth. But he who says of a thing that is not, that it is, or of a thing that it is not, speaks what is false.
So are you saying that
Aristotle's monosyllabic definition of truth and falsehood? And
are you saying that they don't think it be like it is, but it do?
Fritz, one thing I'd suggest we ought to do sometime soon, mm-hmm. and I think people in the definition of truth was a big part of the Jordan Peterson versus Sam Harris debate. And even though I hate Sam Harris's guts, I have to say Harris was correct and Peterson was incorrect on the nature of truth. Or at least Harris was closer to being correct. And I have to say that whole discussion between Peterson and Harris for me was just nails on the chalkboard, because I want Peterson to win because he's right about so many other things.
Yeah, I find interesting about Jordan Peterson is he's not like, I think the reason so many, especially young men, find him so profound is because he's basically like, he's like the philosophy, he's a philosopher, he's the philosophical equivalent of advice your dad's supposed to give you. He is basically like your dad who's supposed to tell you, who's like, who instead of how your dad basically uses anecdotes and you spending time with him and learning how to be a man and get into adulthood, he's just using it, and he's just like using archetypes and meta myths.
Yeah, and for me, listening to Peterson's lectures, it's like, oh yeah, this is all stuff that I knew since I was a kid. It's all in the Book of Virtues, and it's all familiar stuff. But so many people, they aren't getting that stuff when they're young,
because they're raised by single mothers.
Exactly. Now,
this is the well.
Chris,
I
was going to say about Peterson, you and I ought to go through at some point. Not right now because we're probably on the tail end of this.
Yeah.
But at some point, we ought to get together and just have a just for fun session where we go over that totally devastating interview with Peterson.
The one the interview with him and that feminist lady.
Yeah, because that one is pretty funny, and I think a low effort live stream where we go over it, pause it a bunch of times to comment, just might be entertaining. I don't know how educational it would be, but it might be entertaining.
Okay, sure. What was he going to end on? Because you know how Margaret Sanger said this lovely icon of evil. The most kind thing a woman can do for her child is kill it. Apparently, it's like compared to that, then it's like, so why is it that nobody bats an eye when she says that? But then Ann Coulter says the best thing or the most loving thing a single mother can do for her child is give it up for adoption. Apparently, that's too far.
Yeah,
because I hate to say this, I sort of agree with the sentiment because again, the statistics don't lie. That children raised by a single...
I might say, I think maybe it might be that the most loving thing that a mother in crisis could do might be giving up a child for adoption. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if I'd say just single mother and that's all we know. I mean, like what if the dad died? I mean.
Oh no, I'm talking more about the sentiment, the fact that children raised by single mothers, are statistically very, very poorly off.
Oh yeah, they totally are, and the same thing goes for single dads.
And this is the problem with the whole sort of cuck thing, where it's like, I think some men would get like, they would then what if it like gets away from like, let's say people, because if you're a couple and you adopt a kid, technically you are raising somebody else's child. That does not make you a cuck. Dating and then hopefully marrying somebody that already has kids does not make you a cuck. That makes you somebody that stepped in and helped raise somebody's child. That's a wonderful thing, especially adoption.
Yeah, people get confused about what a cuckold is. A cuckold is someone who gets sexual pleasure from seeing their
significant other have sex with somebody else.
Other being unfaithful. Mm-hmm. That's what cuckoldry is. Adoption is not cuckoldry.
But what I love is like what I've been fascinated by recently is this idea of the new male gape. Have you heard of this?
The new male what?
So do you know what a new male is?
No.
Oh, it's sort of like the new sort of the definition of like the sort of like beta male cucks, like the ones that are just like completely.
Oh, this is the new feminist notion of alternative masculinity.
Yeah, which is being a complete wimp.
Isn't that where that word metrosexual comes from?
Mm-hmm. But essentially, there's a thing called the new male gape, and it's interesting because, it's made off of behavior by chimpanzees where they'll open their mouth, like they'll open their mouth wide and show their teeth, and to show that they're not a threat and that they're very docile. And there's all these pictures of these new males that make the same face when they get something that they want or when they pose for pictures. Because when a real man poses for a picture, he either smiles or just looks relaxed, or if it's an old-timey photo, he looks like he's in horrible pain. Because here's a screenshot of the new male gape.
About photography back then, of course.
Mm-hmm. But here's what the new male gape looks like. Do you see this?
Can the audience see it?
Can you see it?
No. Wait
Oh,
a
oh,
minute.
hold on.
Oh,
Yeah,
I mean,
now
you're
now
not
I'm sharing it. Now I am.
Okay. Oh yeah. Why is Sean Murray in there? He's not a big feminist
like
man.
one.
is he?
He did make the tear up that horrible game, though. But again, let's look at these horrible, horrible, disgusting people.
Okay. Well,
I don't want to look at it anymore.
I don't. I honestly, I don't think Sean Murray's a horrible person.
I know, but the point is just you can tell though the fact of like them opening the mouths is sort of a sign of they are emasculated cucks.
Yeah.
But this stream is no longer about the FBI. Although I think talking about all these cucks is going to bring the FBI in here, but
people on the chat talking about what they all look the same.
Yes, because they're all white.
Oh snap! Okay, like when should we get back together for another live stream?
I don't know. We can do it on your channel though.
Yeah, we should probably go over the
Peterson interview.
Peterson interview on my channel.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not gonna like make a response video talking about it because, well, it's kind of been done to death by others already. But a live stream format might allow us to make some just entertaining.
Okay, so I think we can end it with somebody from the chat saying, FBI, Skyrim cucks, the stream had it all. And with that, I'm going to end the stream. Thank you very much, Ben, for coming on, and Blackjack, I'll see y'all later.